Let's talk about Pakistan, because right now the nation is caught in what you could call a perfect storm. We're going to break down how a domestic tragedy, a serious economic squeeze, and some intense geopolitical pressures are all hitting at the exact same time, putting the country at a really critical turning point.
It all kicks off with a violent attack, one that the government immediately labels as a plot to literally tear the country apart. Then you've got an economy that's really feeling the heat, with everyday citizens facing a new and intense financial squeeze, and that's sparking some serious outrage.
And to top it all off, the entire region is on edge. This is forcing Pakistan to navigate a pretty dangerous geopolitical landscape. So you have three totally distinct pressures all converging at once. So let's start in Islamabad. After a truly devastating bombing at an Imam Bargah, the mood across the country is, as you can imagine, one of grief and shock. And the government's first move? It's to frame this not just as a tragedy, but as a direct assault on the very idea of Pakistan itself. Right away, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is meeting with the victims' families, and you really have to listen to the words he's using here. He's calling the attack a conspiracy to create division, an unholy conspiracy that he vows will be stopped. It's a very clear attempt to rally the country against a common enemy, to reinforce that message of national unity.
And out of this horrible tragedy comes this story of incredible heroism. The Prime Minister made a point to highlight the bravery of a young man named Abbas, who actually managed to stop the attacker, preventing what could have been an even greater loss of life. By honoring Abbas, the government puts a human face on the sacrifice and creates this really powerful symbol of defiance. But this is where the story gets, well, complicated. See, on one hand, the government announced some pretty significant financial aid, 1 crore rupees for the hero's family and 50 lakh for the other victims. But almost in the same breath, it rolled out these new policies that are going to hit the public's wallet hard. The contrast here is just so stark, and it really sets the stage for the next major pressure point. So, you have the government trying to project this image of unity, but at the very same time, it's introducing measures that a lot of people feel are doing the exact opposite. This economic squeeze on ordinary folks is quickly becoming a huge source of friction. First up, your electricity bill is going up. Period. There are new fixed charges. So even if you're a non-protected consumer using just 100 units, that's an extra 275 rupees. If you use up to 400 units, that jumps to 400 rupees. For millions of households already dealing with inflation, this is a direct, unavoidable hit.
But the change that really lit a fire under people was this new solar policy. See, it used to be a unit-for-unit system. If your solar panels made an extra unit of power, you could trade it for 1 unit from the grid later. Pretty simple, right? Well, not anymore. Now you have to sell your extra power to the grid for a really low price, like 8 to 10 rupees a unit. But when you need to pull power from the grid, you're buying it back at the full price of around 50 rupees. It basically flips the whole model from saving money to, well, something that feels a lot like a penalty.
So you gotta ask, why make this change? Well, the government's justification really points to this gap right here. The Prime Minister basically argued that the cost of the old solar policy shouldn't fall on the nearly 38 million people using the regular grid, especially when only about 466,000 people are actually benefiting from it. It's a classic government problem, right? Trying to balance the benefits across different groups.
Of course, the political opposition was having none of it. PTI Chairman Barrister Goer immediately slammed the policy, calling it an injustice and cruelty. He's arguing that this doesn't just hurt the people who already have solar, it sends a terrible message to anyone thinking about investing in green energy down the road.
And the pushback was immediate and sharp. Opposition politician Shazia Mari called it a reverse policy, basically asking, why would the government do something that seems to discourage progress? The feeling was pretty clear. This just feels like a huge step backward that only helps a select few.
Now, this kind of public pressure from citizens, especially young people, it's not just happening in Pakistan. To really get the mood in the region, let's just zoom out for a second and look next door to Bangladesh. A huge election is happening there, and it's being shaped by some very similar anxieties. Get this, a staggering 30 million, that's 3 crore, young Gen Z voters are able to vote in Bangladesh. People are calling them the kingmakers, and for good reason. Their collective voice is powerful enough to swing the entire election. And you can see exactly why their vote is so critical. I mean, look at these polls. The race is unbelievably close. We're talking a margin of just 0.1% between the two main coalitions. When an election is this tight, getting that youth vote out is absolutely everything. So what are these kingmakers demanding? Well, if this sounds familiar, it should. They want solutions for inflation and unemployment.
It's a crystal clear signal that all across the region, economic pressure is a powerful political force, and it's something governments just can't afford to ignore.
Okay, so that's the pressure from inside. Now let's pull back even further to the world stage, where Pakistan is trying to pull off this really delicate balancing act between rising tensions with its neighbor Iran and these crucial economic talks with the United States.
The language coming out of Iran is intense. An Iranian security official, Ali Shamkhani, put out this pretty chilling warning aimed at the U.S. He said that even a limited military attack would be seen as the start of a full-blown war, a war that he says wouldn't stay contained. That raises the stakes for everybody in the region, including Pakistan. But while that drumbeat of war is sounding in one direction, a completely different conversation is happening in another.
At the same time, Pakistani and U.S. officials were meeting for an economic dialogue. And here, the tone is all about cooperation, stabilization, and creating a good climate for foreign investment. The U.S. actually praised Pakistan's efforts to get its finances in order, and both sides agreed that consistent policies are the real key to stronger trade. It's just a world away from the conflict-heavy talk coming from Iran.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? We've seen domestic tragedy, public anger over the economy, and high-stakes global politics all happening at the exact same time. That is an unbelievable amount of strain for any government. So when you're getting pushed from every single direction, from the street, from within the state, and from the world stage, where do you even start? Which fire do you try to put out first?